This is the Corner Cutter Podcast, a consistent weekly show all about speed cubing, and you're listening to episode 61. Hey, welcome to the Corner Cutter Podcast. Podcasting since 2014 and cubing since 2015. I'm your host, Josh, and this is the most consistent speed cubing podcast dedicated to entertain and educate you with in-depth conversations with cubers from all across the sport. My website is thecornercutterpodcast.com, and thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Corner Cutter Podcast. If you're listening to this episode because you heard about the podcast from JPerm, super big thanks for listening. I appreciate you checking it out. And if you're not already, make sure to hit subscribe. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube, and many other podcast apps and directories as well. So whatever is easiest for you to listen on, you should listen to the podcast on that platform. So in today's episode, we are having another debate, and we're debating the RedBull Championships and the best 5x5 method. So we'll jump right into that in a minute. First, I just wanted to mention that the 100 subscriber giveaway has ended, and the winner is going to be picked and notified shortly. So thank you to everybody who has entered, and it was a huge success. I mean, I didn't get that many subscribers from the giveaway, I don't think, but from the shout out on JPerm's page, I'm now up to over 240 subscribers. So I am super happy about that, and that is super cool, getting that many in just a few days, really. So that worked out great. So I guess you'll be seeing a 300 subscriber giveaway coming up pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. And then the other thing was, if you have any feedback for this episode, any questions, comments, or anything, I would love to hear from you. If you want to email in, my email address is josh@thecornercutterpodcast.com, or you can send in audio feedback, and if you send that in, it will most definitely get played on the show. If you want to be on the show, that's a perfect way to send it in. You can go to thecornercutterpodcast.com/feedback, and all the ways to contact me are right there. So now let's jump into the second ever debate episode on TCCP. Okay, welcome to the second debate show for the Corner Cutter Podcast. Today we are debating whether the RedBull Championships are a benefit to the community or if they are not, and whether yaw or reduction is better for 5x5. So we'll start right off with the RedBull Championships. But first, let's introduce the debaters. Aiden, welcome back to the Corner Cutter Podcast.
Thank you for having me back on. This is my fifth time.
It's
I
think it's your fourth or fifth.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun.
Actually,
on here.
it will be your fifth by the time this comes out, because
all right,
we did that little interview at the competition.
Oh, right. Well, thank you so much for having me on again.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then listener of the podcast, Rustin, thanks for reaching out and coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoy your podcast.
Thank you. So, Aiden, why don't we start off with you? Why do you think the RedBull Championships are a benefit to the cubing community?
Well, I think they're it's more of a spectator sport. So when you go to a regular competition, it's not as enjoyable to watch. But Red Bull, since they're like head-to-head style, it's a lot better to watch. And I actually went to it in Boston, and it was a lot of fun to watch. And like, I know at first a lot of people were hating on it because like something they said, like, it's the most professional world championships yet, but they've gotten a little different, and they might be partnering with the WCA, which would be pretty cool. And yeah, so I think it is good for the community to have more of a spectator sport. So yeah.
Rustin, what's your biggest downside?
Well, the World Cubing Association has been doing this for a long time, and they've been working at it. And then Red Bull, which is a really popular company, just kind of jumped in and made their own World Championships. And I feel like it's kind of unfair because they're a lot more well known than World Cube Association.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about how Red Bull is like bringing the world more aware of cubing and what that actually is?
Okay, I think that's one of the best things with it, because if it like ends up getting like live on TV or something, then more non-cubers will be able to see the cubing community.
Yeah, well, I do think it would be cool and it would grow the community, but I mean, I do really like the community as it is, and I don't really think like cubing is cool to watch, but I just don't know if what Red Bull is doing is the best approach.
Can you explain what happened when they originally launched this idea and announced it?
Well, you can go.
Okay, I'll just say, so they started out and they had posted this promotion video for it and everything about calling it the World Championship, and they had said something about it being the most professional World Championship yet. And a lot of the community just didn't like it. And the fact that they weren't partnering with the WCA made it just a lot worse.
Aiden, what was your initial reaction?
I didn't really know what to think at first. It looked pretty cool, but since a lot of the community was just hating on it, I kind of didn't like it at first. But then, like, everybody just started calming down and really looking into it, and it just didn't seem that bad.
So when did it actually change for you when you thought it was actually a good thing now?
It was probably like a month or two before it actually happened. And it's just people started talking how it might actually be good for the community because it, like, more people can hear about cubing, and then we might be able to get some more cubers and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Rustin, what was your initial reaction?
Well, at first I thought it was just Red Bull sponsoring the Australia World Championships, but then I realized it wasn't with World Cube Association, and I was a little bit mad because Rubik's was sponsoring like all of the WCA World Championships for the past 3 years or so, or I don't know how long, but or 3 World Championships. They're every other year. And then they just helped Red Bull with this, and I feel like they kind of stabbed World Cube Association in the back, especially since they called it the same thing, and it just annoyed me.
Oh yeah, just one more thing. They announced the championship right after everybody heard about Rubik's suing the cubicle, so that also made everybody really mad.
Yeah, they just I feel like it does go with the suing the cubicle, and it just annoyed me because Rubik's just kind of keeps like, they're good for the community and they're nice, but then they just stabbed the cubicle in the back, and then they worked with Red Bull on their World Championships, and it just annoyed me because I keep wanting to think they're a good company, but then they just keep like doing things that betray my trust, and I don't really like them.
So it looks like that Rubik's might actually be the issue, because if they're partnering with Red Bull and then also suing the cubicle, I guess that puts a negative light on Red Bull.
Yeah, well, it is Rubik's because Red Bull is just sponsoring it, basically. So it isn't Red Bull that's doing something to the WCA, it's just Rubik's.
Yeah. I feel like if Red Bull had just sponsored the championships in Melbourne, Australia, I would have been fine with that. I mean, but since they're just doing their own thing with Rubik's, it just I feel like it was kind of mean. But then they are talking with the WCA now, so I feel like it might turn out good. But the first one was just kind of, I feel like it wasn't a very good thing to happen.
Mm-hmm. So, Rustin, are you worried about there like becoming two separate, I guess this isn't the right word, but kind of tours or like championships and stuff like that? So there's like two different sides in the Cuban community.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that, and like it might tear the Cuban community in half, and half of them would go to each. And but now they're talking with the WCA, and they're calling them the World Cup now. So I feel like it's going a little bit better, but the first one was just it just made me feel like they were kind of just tearing the Cuban community in half, and you'd have to choose Red Bull or World Cube Association.
Well, like, the WCA is for everybody. So anybody, no matter like how fast they are, really can go to a WCA competition. But Red Bull is more for like the fast people to go up and compete against fast people head to head, which I think that is just really cool, and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, but they do the head to head, like the national style finals at nationals and world championships, and then they started the Nation Cup last year with the world championships. So yeah, I feel like WCA was already trying to do something like that, and then Red Bull just kind of, I don't know. I feel like Rubik's is just trying to take over the Cuban community, and they tried to take over our Cube stores, and now they're trying to get the competitions. And I'm fine with Red Bull, but Rubik's, I'm pretty mad at them.
What about Red Bull's like rules, like not being able to use your own cube and the other kind of funny regulations they have for their competitions?
Okay, they actually changed it. You can use your own cubes now.
Yeah, I know that, but like
okay.
when it first came out,
I thought that was pretty lame. Like, you can't use your own cube. It's just
that was a little weird.
Yeah, you could perform a lot better on your own cube, because I know the person at nationals who got fourth in square one, and his lube job got messed up, so he didn't do as well as he planned on, and he probably could have podiumed. I don't know, but just if he didn't have his own cube, he would have done not amazing. So with just his lube job messed up, he messed up a lot during that. So not using your own cube would make you perform a lot worse.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's a good thing they did change that rule.
Yeah, I am glad that they changed it back. That's nice. I mean, especially with all these new cubes coming out.
Yeah, at least the cube that they were giving them to use was the GAN 356X. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't the Rubik's Cube.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that thing, it's not bad by any means, but it's not a world-class speed cube.
And I mean, half the people, or like more than half the people actually competing in it were GAN sponsorees, so they were probably already using it.
True. Except with a different lube job, or probably wasn't lubed at all.
It was stock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So, Aiden, could you explain what the actual Red Bull Championship was like, and was there anything there that you didn't expect?
Well, so first we got there and just kind of sat down and stuff and waited, and then they started it. So they have just one judge, really. It was Eric Ackersdijk, and he would just judge for each solve, and it was just really fun watching them and seeing all of the top speed cubers, because almost all the top speed cubers were there. And then at intermission, Stephen Brundage put on one of his magic shows, which was really fun to watch. And then after that, they did some of the finals, because before it was the semifinals, and then they had the real finals after. And then after that, they had the award ceremony, and then everybody just kind of hung out for 10-20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm good to go. I actually didn't really look into it that much. Like, did you have to make a certain cutoff to compete in it? Or
I didn't compete. I just went to spectate.
Actually, yeah, because they're not connected with the WCA. How would they even know who could compete?
Anybody would just go to compete, and they had like different rounds. They had like the qualifying rounds the day before, and then you would qualify and then go in, and then they had like seeding rounds the morning of the competition, and then the finals were in the afternoon.
Oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What were there any qualifications for being able to compete?
I don't know. I didn't look too much into that, but just what I said is basically all I know.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What did you think of Match the Scramble? Was that fun to watch?
It actually was. It was like, because I mean, it's like for most people that haven't really tried it, it takes a few minutes, but these people are like under 30 seconds, so it's not like a long event. So it was fun to watch them, and then like all of them, they got like a success in that, but one of them actually didn't get it right, so that was kind of disappointing, but oh well.
Yeah, that can be difficult sometimes, especially if you like do one wrong move and then the whole cube's messed up.
Oh yeah.
Rustin, any other thoughts on why the Red Bull Championships are a negative?
Yeah, I just kind of, just all in all, I just thought they were kind of like stealing the WCA's mojo, I guess. WCA has been here for like years and years, just kind of hopped in and made a World Championships. But now that they're trying to partner up and talk with the WCA, it's gonna end up a little bit better.
What do you guys think about, like, what if Felix got a 4.15 single at the Red Bull Championships? What would that do?
I don't think it would actually count as a world record. I don't think the WCA would count it.
Yeah, he has a 301 or a 302 at home, and so I feel like he would be happy because he got a good single, and I don't know, maybe Red Bull would do like the Red Bull World Records, but if they did that, I would be pretty mad though, because like official world records are like tracked by WCA, so yeah, I don't think it really would do that much except for make Felix happy.
I feel like the WCA obviously wouldn't count it, but like they would obviously say it's the world record, and Guinness might actually start saying it's the world record too.
Yeah, how would that would really cause issues? I could see.
Now, that would. So depending on what the WCA would do in that situation, like if they didn't count it and then the Red Bull started counting it and Guinness started counting it, that would probably turn it all around and make it just a horrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would make... Yeah, I feel like Red Bull Championships is getting better, but that would completely make it just really a big mess.
Do you know what scrambles they were using? Like, were they actually scrambles like the WCA?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were, because they did have a scrambling table in back, and it was actually the cubicle, all those people. Okay. They were the ones scrambling out in back, so they were definitely legit.
I wonder if they use like T-Noodle or just like CS Timer or something.
I feel like they would have used T-Noodle.
Yeah. If they both use T-Noodle, I feel like that would just be kind of weird because like World Cube Association has people work on it and they're constantly fixing it, and that would be weird if Red Bull is just like using their scrambling thing and then every time they update it, they'll use the new one, and I just feel like it would be kind of a weird situation.
How would that affect if Felix got a faster time than 4.22?
I don't know if it really would, but it just depends because it's not at a WCA competition. Now, you could just be at home and use the T-Noodle scrambles and get faster, but obviously they wouldn't count it because it's not a competition. But Red Bull, just because they're not actually a WCA competition, I don't think World Cube Association would count it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
they might, but I don't think they would.
Yeah, I don't think they would because they're so strict on and they're just try and make everything and have really good validity and make it really just run as smoothly as possible and have everything be official and fair. So yeah, and then since they do it head to head there at the Red Bull Championships and kind of try and make it a little bit more stressful to an extent, I don't think they would count it.
Yeah, and I mean, the chances of one of them actually getting it are kind of slim because it's like head to head, so it's more nerve wracking when you get up to solve. And like Felix obviously goes to tons of WCA competitions every year, and each one of the competitions has like 3 rounds of 3x3, which means that's like 15 solves. So you would have a better chance there than doing like 5 solves at the World Cup.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not saying it could never happen.
True. I mean, they could get lucky and Daniel Rose Levine's foot solve world record.
Right.
Slayer skip, and you never know. Maybe Felix will get a last Slayer skip or something.
Yeah.
So it looks like that's it for the Red Bull Championships. Aiden or Rustin, why don't you wrap up your thoughts on why you think the Red Bull Championships are bad?
Well, I feel like they just kind of the WCA has been doing it for a long time, and they just kind of jumped in there. So theirs is just kind of a little bit less just less well done, I guess, because it's just really new. But I feel like if they work with the WCA, then it could end up being a good thing.
And Aiden, any final thoughts?
I just think it's a great thing. It's a nice, competitive thing to watch. All the top cubers go head to head, and it's nice that they'll be partnering with the WCA, or hopefully be partnering with the WCA, and it's nice that the Cubicle and Rubik suing the Cubicle, that whole thing got settled, and the Cubicle was also going to be partnering with them, and I think it's just a great thing for the community.
Okay, so let's move on to our next topic, whether reduction or Yao is better for 5x5, and then we'll move on to other big cubes as well. So, Rustin, why don't you start out this one? What's your opinion on reduction versus Yao, and explain why you think that?
A lot of the faster cubers will just say that reduction and Yao are the same speed, but I tried to learn Yao 5 once, and it's a lot more complicated than reduction, and you kind of have to, there's a lot more steps, and you have to be a lot more careful when doing it. So I feel like it would be harder to get faster, but overall, they're going to be the same speed, but it's going to be easier to get faster quicker with reduction, as it's simpler.
Aiden, what's your opinion?
I mean, I think they're both great methods, and I don't think one of them is really faster than the other. And I know none of the really fast people use it just because they started out using reduction, but even some of the fast people say that Yao isn't worse than reduction, and it could be just as fast. It's just that they didn't practice with it, and since they're already really fast, there's no point in switching to a method that could be just as fast. And reduction, I know this might sound kind of stupid, but in reduction you got to do all 6 centers and then do all of the edges. But Yao, I don't know if it's a good thing, but it's you just do 2 centers, and then you do a couple edges, and then you do more centers, then you pair up some more edges, and then you do 3x3 stage. So it's you do a little bit of both, so then you're not just stuck doing all the centers and then all the edges. So yeah.
And
yeah, true.
Cross is done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Yao methods make CFOP easier, but I mean, if you use Ru or something, then Yao methods are not the best.
Yeah, I don't know what Ru people even do for big cubes.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably why Kian doesn't he's not bad at big cubes, but he's not amazing.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll invent some method that makes I don't know.
Yeah.
Like a Yao for Drew solvers. That'd be pretty cool to see. But then also M moves are really hard on big cubes, so I don't know if Rue would. Anyway, that is not the topic, though.
Have you seen anything on move count for 5x5 versus reduction? I mean, Yao 5 versus reduction.
I have not actually.
Not really, but I haven't thought about that either.
It seems like you'd be doing a lot more middle slices. I'm not sure, though.
Yeah, okay. Well, I feel like the move count would probably be pretty similar because you're doing the same amount of edges and the same amount of centers, and
Yeah.
you're just doing them in a different order. But I feel like, well, so in the beginning of Yao 5, since you're, you have to do centers and then you have to do edges and not break you have more freedom on your edges, but then later on, when you're doing the rest of the edges, you're going to have less freedom, and it's going to be harder, and I feel like that's going to average it out, and they're probably going to have the same move count, or pretty similar, at least in the end.
Yeah, that sounds right.
What about expert cubers? What is their opinion on Yao 5? Like, does Kevin Hayes or even Felix? I know Felix was supposed to be experimenting more with Yao 5 this year, I think.
Yeah, Felix did some cube skills videos on Yao 5, and that's how I learned how to do it, but I'd never stuck with it. And I feel like they all just say they're the same, but they started out with reduction, and they're just going to stick with that. So
Yeah, that's basically what I've heard. They say it's a good method, but they just have started with reduction, so there's no point. Kind of like Rue, like if you get like sub 10 with CFOP, there's no point in learning Rue, even if it's just going to be about the same. You could get just about the same, so there's no point in learning Rue when you already know CFOP.
yeah.
And I'm not saying Rue's a bad method. I think Rue's a cool method. I'm already good at CFOP.
Yeah. Yeah, Rue is a cool method, and it's more efficient, but you can't turn as fast. And yeah, that's probably reduction early on. You can't turn. Hard to just switch a lot, but I feel like in the end. But I'm sorry. Okay, but you're just doing the rest of the edges. They're all going to be in the same spot, so you're going to be able to turn a lot faster. But on just reduction, it's just you're kind of all over the place when you're doing your centers and edges, and you have to look everywhere. But there's not really, but you don't have to do as many transitions. So it's just, I feel like they just kind of both have negatives and positives, and they average out.
What about other big cubes? Is Yao possible there?
Yes, it is. And I know a lot of people actually do use Yao on big cubes. I've seen some people. I know this one guy. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, but he got a sub 2 on 7x7 with Yao 7.
Really? Wait,
Yeah.
Was this official?
No. It was unofficial, but he is really fast at 7x7, and he uses Yao.
That's pretty cool. I feel like 4x4, which I don't know if I consider it a big cube.
It's not a big cube.
I don't consider it a big cube. But Yao on 4x4 is, in my opinion, undoubtedly better than just reduction, because it just makes everything way more smooth.
Yeah, Yao on 4x4 is hands down the best method. This isn't even like a debate.
Except for maybe Hoya.
Nobody good uses reduction. Every single good person uses Yao.
Yeah, all the fast people do use Yao, but I feel Hoya, you can get fast at that, but none of the fast people use Hoya, so.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've never seen a fast person use Hoya when, like, reduction versus Yao. Like, 7x7, there is that guy who's really fast with Yao, so.
Yeah.
Are there any real, really big benefits for Yao for, like, let's say 7x7? Like, is it a lot easier to continue without, or, like, start 3x3 stage without the cross, having to do the cross on 7x7?
Yeah, Yao on 7x7, just like 3x3 stage isn't that big of a step in it. But for 4x4, since it's a lot shorter overall, 3x3 stage is going to make a bigger impact in your time.
Oh, yeah.
I do have a pretty bad transition in big cubes into 3x3 stage, but I feel like switching now isn't really going to help because, like, I don't know. I'll just get better look ahead, and I could make my cross smoother after finishing edges.
Aiden, do you just want to wrap up with your final thoughts?
I think yaw and reduction are both great methods for big cubes, but I know I just stick with reduction because it's what I learned first, and I've gotten pretty fast with it. So if one of you wants to try yaw, go ahead. It's not like it's going to be slower than reduction, and it could probably get you just as fast. So definitely experiment with it if you want to, and just try out different methods.
Yeah, if you're listening and you use yaw for 5x5 or bigger cubes, please let me know. Email in josh@thecornercutterpodcast.com. Let me know your thoughts, and why you use it and why you think it's better than reduction. So, Rustin, what are your final thoughts?
I feel like, they're going to be the same speed overall, but yaw is going to take more work to get faster because it has a lot more steps. But I feel like either one would be a good way to go, and you should probably just look at both and see which one seems to work for you.
Okay. Aiden, thank you for coming back on. I had a fun time.
It has been fun, and thank you again so much for having me on.
Rustin, thanks for coming on your first time and filling out the guest form.
All right, yeah, thank you for letting me come on. This has been really fun.
That was a very interesting debate. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and there will be more coming up in the near future. So, also, on the 100 subscriber giveaway, you guys gave so many great ideas for guests, for people you wanted to have on or wanted to see on the show, and great questions for the Q&A episode, which will be coming up sometime in the next few episodes. I got a good show planned for next week. I'm not going to say what it is yet, but it does involve the huge news that happened earlier this week, and that was the 3x3 world record was broken. It is now 3.47, and it was an amazing solve. Pretty lucky, and it happened in China, so we'll be covering that next week. So make sure to come back for that. For all the links to things that were mentioned in this episode, go to thecornercutterpodcast.com/show notes and click on episode 61. I got links, timestamps, and an episode player, so make sure to go check that out. And then, if you have any feedback, make sure to email it in, josh@thecornercutterpodcast.com. Thanks, guys, so much for listening to episode 61 of the podcast. And now it's time to take this episode back to the scrambling table. And I'll talk to you guys again next week in episode 62 of the Corner Cutter Podcast. Super special thanks to those of you who have recently left iTunes or Apple Podcasts reviews. I will be reading those on one of the next episodes. Thanks again. Bye.